It is not especially pleasing for me when I write it down or say it out loud. I would guess Guy's White has long forgotten it. But it has lived, and lives still, in my mind and my mouth. I suppose it could be said that this line is a literary reference, especially now that I am putting it in a book. But that's not right, not really. I realized not long ago that that line is something I think, even say out loud sometimes when I look at my desk. So it's typed here on an index card. It looks like a little angel when it's sleeping. So I could have it here with me in this cafe and write it down. I am not remarkable in this way, having these things in my head. We're all wandering around thinking about some little thing at any given moment, something which everyone else has most likely forgotten. Some of these things we get to say out loud, incidents from our own lives or little bits from culture which we use to illustrate some point or use as an example, though most of them just stay in our heads, too private or just not interesting enough for anyone else. It is remarkable that I have the astonishing luck to do this for a living, to have this nonsense count as work. But that is not a sufficient explanation for what it is I am doing. It is not just work. Many writers refer to what they do as a calling, which never sounds right to me. It's too grandiose, too literary, to talk about literature that way. The more an author refers to writing as a calling, the less likely I am to be interested in their work. Many of my favorite writers cannot even use literary terms to describe whatever it is they're working on. I am working on a thing, is what they say when cornered, these people who work with words, who, when called upon to produce a noun, reach for the least specific one. Thing. This is what I am doing. Some thing in this cafe. In another astonishing bit of luck, I got to interview the writer Rachel Ingalls, perhaps my absolute favorite writer, at what turned out to be very near the end of her life. She referred to what she did as a compulsion. As always with Ingalls, it's a little dark, but very good. Lunatics are compulsive. No one has asked me to do what I am doing, not really. There is a great, great heap of literature in the world, and even though most of it is awful, there's still more than enough good stuff, way more than enough to last anyone's lifetime. When I add to this gargantuan heap, I have a small hope that someone will find it interesting. But there's no sensible argument that the world needs another book, by me or anyone else. But I'm doing it anyway. I can't really stop, and I don't really want to. The most visible example of what I do, some little scrap of culture living in my head and becoming something else, is the poetry of Charles Baudelaire, of course. I have written a bunch of books about orphans named Baudelaire. This is because when I was young, about the same time as It Looks Like a Little Angel When It's Sleeping, I discovered a copy of Baudelaire's The Flowers of Evil in my local library. I knew what it was at once. The title of the book made it perfectly clear. It was a horror novel. Although the real title, something in French, was printed on the cover, the library had written the English translation on a small piece of paper and taped it helpfully over Les Fleurs du Mal. I know this is true because I went back to this book, the same copy, over and over, long after I knew I was wrong about what it was. I didn't get my own copy until I was in college, and by then it was much too late. I was already hopelessly lost to a relationship with Baudelaire and the kind of literature he made up and wrote down. The kind of literature I like. Strange literature. The best literature. But I was 12 when I found it first. I know this because of the publication date of the edition, 1982, and The Flowers of Evil was in the section of the library which featured newly published books. I didn't know that then. I was puzzled by this section of the library, which had a small handful of books, face out instead of shelved properly in a row of spines, books which had nothing in common as far as I could tell. There must have been a placard placed someplace, new arrivals or something, but I didn't see it or didn't care to see it. Something that looms so large now in my professional life. Who has a new book? When is it coming out? Was, when I was a child, something rightfully ignored. I preferred to think, that libraries just sometimes like to draw attention to some books they were thinking about for no particular reason. The Flowers of Evil looked good, so I took it home to read. Stupidity, delusion, selfishness, and lust torment our bodies and possess our minds, and we sustain our affable remorse